The last destination of love. The rain had been falling over the old city for 3 straight days. The streets of Lahore looked drowned beneath silver water, and every passing rickshaw left behind ripples like broken memories. On the corner of a lonely road stood a small tea stall where a young man sat silently every evening. His name was Ion. He was 26 years old, but the sadness in his eyes made him look much older. He wore the same black coat every winter, even though the sleeves had begun to tear from the edges. In his trembling hands rested a faded photograph of a girl whose smile looked brighter than the world itself. Her name was Mare. Every night, Ion ordered 1 cup of tea for himself, and 1 for her. The old tea seller had stopped asking questions long ago, because everyone in the neighborhood already knew the story. They knew that 5 years earlier, Ion and Mare had once been the soul of the city. 2 lovers whose laughter echoed through narrow streets, college corridors, and quiet rooftops beneath the moon. But now Mare was gone. And Ion still waited, as if love could return from the dead. The rain intensified. Ion stared at the empty chair beside him. "Your tea is getting cold again," he whispered softly. The wind carried his voice into the darkness. No answer came, only silence. A silence so painful that even the sky seemed to cry with him. 7 years earlier, Ion had been a simple university student with dreams larger than his destiny. He loved poetry, he loved old songs, and he believed that real love existed. His friends often laughed at him. "Love only exists in stories," they would say. But Ion always smiled. "Then maybe I was born inside the wrong world," he replied. One autumn morning, while rushing through the university library during heavy winds, he accidentally dropped all his books across the floor. Pages scattered everywhere. Students stared. Ion bent down nervously to collect them. Then suddenly another hand appeared beside his. Soft fingers. Delicate hands. A faint fragrance of jasmine. A girl helped him gather the books without saying a word. When Ion looked up, time stopped. Large brown eyes. Long dark hair. A smile gentle enough to heal every wound. "Your poetry book almost died," she laughed. Ion forgot how to breathe. "Maybe it was waiting for you to save it," he answered unconsciously. The girl smiled wider. "My name is Mare, Ion." That was it. Just 2 names. Yet the universe quietly changed forever. Love never announces itself. It enters silently, like rain through an open window. Ion and Mare began meeting in the library almost every day. Sometimes they talked about books. Sometimes about dreams. Sometimes they simply sat together in silence. But even silence felt beautiful beside her. Mare loved painting. She often sketched sunsets in her notebook while Ion wrote poetry beside her. One evening, she asked him, "Do you believe 2 people can belong to each other forever?" Ion looked at her seriously. "Yes. And if destiny separates them, then love waits." Mare became quiet, very quiet, as if those words frightened her. But Ion didn't notice, because he was already drowning in love. Weeks became months. The city witnessed their story bloom like spring flowers. They shared roadside tea, long walks under streetlights, secret letters hidden inside books, midnight phone calls, and promises. So many promises. One night on the university rooftop, beneath a sky full of stars, Mare rested her head against his shoulder. "Ion, yes, if one day I disappear, would you still love me?" Ion held her hand tightly. Even after death. Mare closed her eyes. A single tear rolled down her cheek. But Ion never saw it. Winter arrived early that year. Mare slowly began changing. She looked weaker, paler. Sometimes she disappeared for days without explanation. Ion worried constantly. "What's wrong with you?" he asked one afternoon. "Nothing. You're lying." She forced a smile. "I'm just tired." But the truth was far darker. Mare had been hiding something terrible. A disease. A deadly illness that had been growing inside her body for years. Cancer. Doctors had already given her little time. But she never told Ion. Because she loved him too much. She didn't want him chained to a dying girl. Every night she cried alone in hospital corridors while pretending happiness in front of him. Every test report felt like another death sentence. Yet whenever Ion smiled, she forgot her pain for a few moments. That smile became her final reason to survive. The city celebrated Basant with colors and lights. Kites filled the sky, music echoed from rooftops, but Mare's heart carried a storm. That night she called Ion to the rooftop where they first confessed their love. The moon shone brightly above them. A cold wind moved through the silence. Mare looked at him for a very long time, as if memorizing his face forever. "Ion, promise me something, anything. If life becomes cruel to you, Don't stop living. Ion laughed softly. You talk like an old woman. Promise me. I promise. And if I leave someday? You won't. But if I do? Ion held her face gently. Then I'll follow you. Mare burst into tears. No. Her voice shook violently. You must live. Ion stared at her in confusion. Mare, what's happening? She hugged him tightly. So tightly. As if she was trying to stop time itself. I love you, she whispered. I love you more. But somewhere in the darkness, destiny had already begun writing their ending. Mare wrote letters every night. Letters filled with love, pain, fear, and goodbye. She hid them inside a wooden box beneath her bed. One letter read, if you are reading this, it means I no longer exist in your world. I wanted to tell you the truth many times, but every time I looked into your eyes, I became weak. I could not destroy your happiness with my illness. Forgive me, Ion. Loving you was the most beautiful thing that ever happened to me. Another letter read, do not hate destiny. It only separated our bodies, not our souls. But she never found the courage to give him those letters. Because as long as they remained hidden, hope remained alive. It happened on a rainy evening. Ion waited outside the university gate holding flowers. Mare never arrived. Hours passed. Calls unanswered. Messages ignored. Fear slowly consumed him. Finally, near midnight, he received a call from an unknown number. Are you Ion? Yes. Please come to City Hospital immediately. The world froze. Ion rushed through rain-soaked streets like a madman. His heart pounded violently. Prayers escaped his lips. No, no, no. When he reached the hospital, he saw Mare lying unconscious on a hospital bed. Machines surrounded her. Doctors moved urgently. Ion felt his soul collapse. What happened? He shouted. Mare's mother cried uncontrollably. She has cancer. The words struck him harder than death. Cancer. The room spun around him. She didn't want you to know, her mother whispered. Ion looked at Mare, tiny, weak, broken, yet still beautiful. He held her cold hand and cried for the first time in years. Why didn't you tell me? No answer came, only the sound of machines. And the sound of his heart shattering forever. Days passed inside the hospital. Ion refused to leave her side. He stopped eating, stopped sleeping, stopped living. Every morning he prayed for a miracle. Every night he feared losing her. Sometimes Mare woke briefly. Whenever she saw him crying, she smiled weakly. Idiot, why are you crying? Because you lied to me. I wanted you happy. I would rather suffer with you than smile without you. Mare's eyes filled with tears. One evening she whispered, Ion, yes, if I die, promise me you'll keep writing poetry. Stop saying that, Ion. No. He broke down completely. I can't lose you. Mare gently touched his face. You already taught me what forever feels like. Outside the hospital window, rain began falling again. As if the heavens themselves mourned with them. The doctors knew. Mare knew. Even Ion knew deep inside. The end was near. That morning the sky looked strangely beautiful. Golden sunlight entered Mare's room. Birds sang outside. The world looked alive. Cruelly alive. Mare asked to sit near the window. Ion carefully helped her. She leaned against him weakly. Ion, thank you. For what? For loving me. Ion's tears returned instantly. Don't talk like this. I'm not afraid anymore. But I am. Mare smiled faintly. Then hold my hand. He did. Very tightly. As if love alone could stop death. But destiny cannot be bribed. Hours later, Mare's breathing became weaker. The machines began beeping faster. Doctors rushed in. Ion panicked. No, please. Save her. Mare looked at him one final time. Her lips trembled softly. I love you. Then the monitor went silent. Flat. Still. Dead. Ion screamed. A scream so painful that nurses began crying. He held her lifeless body for hours. Refusing to let go. Refusing to believe. But love could not defeat death. And the girl who carried spring inside her smile disappeared forever. Thousands attended her funeral. But Ion saw no one. He only saw Mare, wrapped in white cloth, silent forever. When they lowered her into the grave, Ion felt his own soul buried beside her. People tried holding him back. But he collapsed near the grave crying uncontrollably. She's cold, he whispered repeatedly. Someone help her, she hates the cold. Even the strongest men around him cried hearing those words. Rain began pouring heavily during the burial. Thunder echoed across the sky. As if heaven itself could not bear the tragedy. That night Ion sat beside her grave until dawn. He spoke to the soil as if she could still hear him. I came back, Mare. Silence. I brought your favorite flowers. Silence. I'm still here, only the wind answered. After Mare's death, Ion stopped being human. He became a shadow, a ghost wandering through memories. He quit university, ignored friends, avoided family. Every place reminded him of her. The library, the rooftop, the tea stall, even the streets carried her laughter. At night he read her old messages repeatedly. Sometimes he listened to her voice recordings just to hear her say his name. Then he cried until morning. Months passed, but pain only grew deeper. One day Mare's mother visited him. She handed him the wooden box containing all her letters. She wanted you to have these. Ion opened the first letter with trembling hands. As he read her words, tears blurred his vision. Every sentence carried unbearable love. Every goodbye killed him again. By the end, he was shaking violently. She suffered alone, he whispered. That realization destroyed him completely. Exactly 1 year after Mare's death, Ion visited the railway station where they once dreamed of traveling together. He sat alone on an old bench. Trains came and went, people hugged, families reunited, children laughed, but Ion remained trapped in the past. A little girl approached him. Why are you crying, uncle? Ion wiped his tears quickly. I lost someone. The girl thought for a moment. My mother says people never leave if we remember them. Then she ran away. Ion stared into emptiness. For the first time in months, he smiled weakly. Because somewhere deep inside, he knew Mare still lived within him. One night Ion dreamed of Mare. She stood in a field of white flowers wearing the same dress from the day they first confessed their love. She looked healthy, alive, beautiful beyond words. Ion, she said softly. He ran toward her crying. Don't leave again. Mare smiled sadly. You promised me something. What? To live. I can't. You can. I'm tired. So was I. Ion broke down. I miss you every second. I know. Then come back. Mare gently touched his face. I never truly left. When Ion woke up, his pillow was soaked with tears. But for the first time since her death, he opened the curtains. Sunlight entered the room, and somewhere in the silence, he felt her presence. Years passed. Ion slowly returned to writing. But his poetry became heartbreak itself. Every line carried Mare's memory. Every page bled sorrow. People across the country began reading his work. They called him the poet of broken souls. His words touched millions because they came from real pain. One of his most famous poems read, Some people die once, but I died the day you closed your eyes. Since then, I only breathe. I do not live. Readers cried. Strangers wrote letters thanking him. But none of them knew that every poem was actually a conversation with a dead girl. Ion dedicated his first book to Mare. On the first page he wrote, For the girl who turned my heart into a graveyard of beautiful memories. 5 years after Mare's death, Ion visited her grave again during heavy rain. The cemetery looked silent beneath gray skies. He sat beside her grave carrying 2 cups of tea. One for himself, one for her, just like always. I published another book, he whispered. The rain touched the flowers resting over her grave. People love it. Silence. I still hate mornings. Silence. And I still love you. His voice broke. Ion closed his eyes. I kept my promise, Mare. I stayed alive, but living without you feels like punishment. The wind blew softly. For a brief moment, he almost felt someone sitting beside him. Like old times. Like love had returned. Then the feeling disappeared, and only loneliness remained. People often believe love stories end with marriage. But some love stories end with graves. And strangely, those are the stories remembered forever. Because pain leaves deeper marks than happiness. Ion eventually understood something terrible. Real love is not possession. It is endurance. It is carrying someone's memory even after they disappear. It is speaking to silence. It is surviving unbearable loneliness. It is continuing to breathe while half your soul lies buried beneath the earth. That was the final destination of his love. Not happiness, not reunion, but eternal longing. There was one place Ion never stopped visiting. The hospital corridor where Mare spent her final days. Every year on the anniversary of her death, he quietly walked through those cold white halls. The nurses recognized him. Some pitied him. Some admired him. Others cried secretly after seeing the emptiness in his eyes. A young nurse once asked him, Why do you keep coming back here? Ion looked at the hospital room silently. Because this was the last place she breathed. The nurse lowered her eyes. There was nothing more to say. Pain that deep cannot be comforted. Inside that room, memories attacked him from every direction. Mare smiling weakly. Mare holding his hand. Mare saying goodbye. Sometimes he sat there for hours speaking softly into the silence. I wrote another poem today. I finally repaired your old painting. I still remember your laugh. Then he would leave quietly before anyone noticed his tears. One evening Ion visited a bookstore where his poetry collection was displayed near the entrance. A young woman approached him nervously. "Excuse me, are you Ion Ramon?" He nodded politely. The woman held his book tightly. "Your poem saved my life." Ion looked surprised. She smiled sadly. "I lost someone too." For a moment, neither spoke. Because grief recognizes grief. "I'm sorry," Ion whispered. The woman wiped her tears. "How did you survive?" Ion looked out the bookstore window toward the rainy street. "I didn't." The answer silenced her. Before leaving, she asked, "Did you ever stop loving her?" Ion smiled faintly. People stop breathing before they stop loving someone like that. One day Mare's mother invited Ion to their house. The home felt frozen in time. Mare's room remained untouched. Her books still rested on the shelves. Her perfume still carried traces of jasmine. Even her unfinished paintings remained beside the window. Ion walked inside slowly. His hands trembled. It felt as if Mare might suddenly walk through the door smiling. Her mother handed him a canvas wrapped in cloth. "She painted this before she died." Ion carefully uncovered it. The painting showed a lonely man sitting beside a grave under the rain. And beside him sat the transparent figure of a girl smiling lovingly. Ion collapsed into tears. She knew. Her mother cried too. She always knew she wouldn't survive. At the bottom corner of the painting, Mare had written, "Love does not end with death." Ion held the painting against his chest as if holding her heart. Late one night, unable to sleep, Ion searched through old files on his phone. Among thousands of memories, he found a forgotten voice recording. His hands shook before pressing play. Static filled the room. Then Mare's voice appeared softly. "Ion, if you're hearing this someday, maybe I'm already gone." Ion froze. "I'm recording this because I'm scared. Not of death, but of leaving you alone." His tears began falling instantly. "You gave me the happiest days of my life. I wish I had more time with you. I wish I could grow old beside you. I wish destiny was kinder." Her breathing sounded weak. "But if love is real, maybe we'll meet again somewhere beyond this world." A long silence followed. Then her final words, "Please don't forget to smile sometimes." The recording ended. Ion cried until sunrise. Because hearing the voice of someone you lost is both heaven and torture. Another year passed. A violent storm struck the city one winter night. Electricity disappeared. Thunder shook the sky. Ion sat alone in darkness holding Mare's letters. The loneliness became unbearable. For the first time in years, dangerous thoughts entered his mind. "What's the point anymore?" he whispered. He looked toward the balcony as rain poured endlessly. The pain inside him had become heavier than life itself. Then suddenly a letter slipped from the wooden box onto the floor. Ion picked it up. It was one he had never opened. With trembling fingers, he unfolded the paper. Inside, Mare had written, "If you ever feel tired of life after I'm gone, remember this, loving you made my suffering worth it. So please don't destroy yourself. Live enough for both of us." Ion broke down completely. He pressed the letter against his chest and cried like a child. That night Mare saved him again. Even after death. As Ion's poetry became famous, a radio station invited him for an interview. The host asked gently, "Your poems feel incredibly real. Were they inspired by someone?" The studio became silent. Ion looked down for several seconds. "Yes. Can you tell us about her?" He smiled faintly. "She loved rain. She painted sunsets. She laughed like music. And she left too early." Listeners across the city sat quietly listening. "Did she know how deeply you loved her?" Ion's eyes filled with tears. "I hope so." The host hesitated before asking the final question. "If you could speak to her one last time, what would you say?" Ion stared into emptiness. Then whispered, "I'm still waiting." The entire studio fell silent. Somewhere in countless homes that night, strangers cried for a love story they never lived. One cold evening Ion returned to the university rooftop after many years. The city lights stretched endlessly beneath the dark sky. Memories surrounded him instantly. This was where Mare first cried in his arms. Where she asked impossible promises. Where they dreamed about the future. A future that never arrived. Ion sat quietly near the edge. The wind moved gently through the silence. Then suddenly he remembered something. The small crack in the wall where Mare once hid a paper note. His heart raced. Could it still be there? He searched carefully, and unbelievably, it was. A tiny folded paper protected from time. Ion opened it slowly. Inside Mare had written, If destiny separates us someday, meet me in every sunset. Ion looked toward the horizon. The sun was disappearing beneath the city. Orange light filled the sky. And for a brief moment, he smiled through tears. Because sunsets had become their meeting place. One afternoon an old university friend invited Ion to his wedding. Everyone expected him to refuse. But surprisingly, he attended. The wedding hall overflowed with happiness. Music, laughter, dancing, families celebrating love. Yet Ion felt like a stranger among living people. During the ceremony, the groom whispered jokingly, "When will you marry?" Ion forced a small smile. "I already gave my heart away." The groom immediately regretted asking. Later that night, Ion watched the bride and groom exchange vows. For a second he imagined himself and Mare standing there, growing old together, having children, living ordinary beautiful lives. But destiny had stolen all those possibilities. Ion quietly left the wedding before dinner. Outside, rain waited for him again. It always did. 10 years after Mare's death, Ion finally opened the last unopened letter from the wooden box. He had avoided it for years. Because some goodbyes are too painful to read. The paper had become old and fragile. Her handwriting looked slightly shaky. "My dearest Ion, if you are reading this, then time has continued without me. I hope you still look at the sky sometimes. I hope poetry still lives in your heart. And I hope sadness has not completely destroyed you. I know losing me will hurt you. But please understand something. You were the happiest chapter of my existence. Even illness could not steal that from me. Do you remember the day we met in the library? I fell in love with you before you even knew my name. You looked so nervous collecting your books that I wanted to laugh forever. Ion, if souls truly meet again after death, I will find you. No matter how many lifetimes pass. Until then, live, write, love the rain for me. And whenever your heart becomes unbearably lonely, close your eyes. I will be there. Forever yours, Mare." Ion finished reading with trembling hands. Then he kissed the letter softly. And cried in silence. People often ask where love finally ends. Does it end at marriage? At separation? At death? No, the last destination of love is memory. Because bodies disappear, voices fade, photos grow old, but memories survive like ghosts inside the heart. Ion grew older. Gray slowly entered his hair. Wrinkles touched his face. But whenever someone mentioned Mare's name, his eyes still softened exactly the same way. Because some loves never age. They simply become quieter, sadder, deeper, and somewhere beyond the noise of the world, beyond the cruelty of destiny, beyond life and death itself. Ion still belonged to Mare. The girl who left too early. The girl who transformed love into pain. The girl who remained alive inside his broken heart forever. And every rainy evening, at the same old tea stall, an old man still placed 2 cups of tea on the table. One for himself, and one for the love that never truly left.